I'm Michael, 34, and for most of my adult life, I was the invisible backbone of my family, the one who quietly picked up the slack, paid the bills, and made sure everything kept running when no one else would. My parents, Judith and Richard, are in their late 60s now. They live in the same suburban house I grew up in, modest, well-kept, and entirely paid off thanks to a chunk of my inheritance from Grandma Marlene, which I signed over to them after my dad got laid off back in 2012. They said they needed a little help getting back on their feet. I believed them. I always did. Growing up, I was the older child by 6 years. My brother, Jeremy, was the golden one, the miracle baby. Mom would say it all the time. We didn't think we could have another. Then boom, Jeremy came along. And from then on, I was just support staff, babysitter, study partner, emotional sponge. When Jeremy got suspended for smoking in the school parking lot, I was the one grounded for not setting a better example. When he crashed his car senior year, I dipped into my savings to pay the deductible because your father's blood pressure can't handle another bill. He got a newer car 2 weeks later. I got a thank you text that said, "You the man." That was Jeremy at his most grateful. Despite all this, I never really pulled away. Not fully. I went to a state college nearby so I could stay home and help out. I commuted, worked part-time, and studied engineering. I didn't resent it, not then. I thought that was what family did. When Dad had his first stroke, I was the one who moved my schedule around to drive him to physical therapy. When Mom had her hip replaced, I made sure the house was accessible. Even after I moved out at 29, late, I know, I was still the go-to person. Rent short this month? Call Mike. Water heater leaking? Mike knows a guy. Jeremy? He lived 3 hours away, trying to break into real estate, which really just meant burning through investors' money while bouncing from one overpriced condo to the next. I never saw a cent back from the $8,000 I lent him 2 years ago. I barely even saw a thank you. The breaking point didn't come with a bang, no screaming match, no big betrayal. It came in a manila envelope. One afternoon last fall, I stopped by my parents' place to drop off groceries, something I'd been doing weekly since COVID hit. Mom was out with her friend Sharon. Dad was watching some old Western rerun, half asleep in the recliner. On the kitchen counter was a stack of mail, half opened, the way my mom leaves it. I spotted a thick envelope marked confidential, estate planning documents. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something in me, maybe the years of being overlooked, maybe just curiosity, made me do it. I opened it, and there it was, in black and white. Their will. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Jeremy. The house, the savings, the car, even Dad's coin collection that I spent my whole childhood cataloging with him. Jeremy was listed as the sole beneficiary. Not a single mention of me. Not even a contingency line. Just nothing. I stood there for a long time, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the room. I wasn't angry at first. I wasn't even hurt. I was just hollow. It felt like the air had been sucked out of me, like I was watching someone else's life from far away. I took a picture of the document on my phone, placed everything back exactly as it was, and walked out without saying a word. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, that photo glowing on my phone screen. I thought about the years I'd spent making sure they were okay. The money I'd funneled their way, $1,500 every month for bills, $600 for groceries, another $300 here and there when something broke or a birthday came up. I thought about all the times Jeremy flaked out and I was expected to quietly pick up the slack. And suddenly, something shifted. I didn't confront them. I didn't rage or accuse or cry. I just stopped. The next month, I canceled the autopay that sent them rent money. I stopped paying their phone bill. I let the grocery deliveries lapse. I didn't answer the first few texts. Then one came from Dad, short and abrupt as always. "Where's the money for rent?" No hello. No explanation. No concern. Just an expectation. As if my silence had been a glitch and the program needed a reboot. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I didn't want to blow up, didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing how much it hurt. I just replied, "Talk to your heir." No response came that night. But the next day, Mom called. I didn't answer. Then Jeremy tried. That one I declined with a strange sense of satisfaction. 3 days later, I got a string of texts from my mom, frantic and breathless. "Michael, your father is upset. Why are you doing this? Jeremy isn't working right now. We thought you understood." I didn't reply. A week later, I got a Facebook friend request from Sharon, Mom's friend. Then a message, "Hey sweetie, Your mom is really worried. Maybe you guys can talk it out. I blocked her. But that wasn't the end, not even close. Because Jeremy, in all his genius, had apparently never paid a single household bill on his own. Not once. And now, with Dad's health slipping and Mom unable to cover everything on her pension, the cracks were showing. I heard from a neighbor, Mrs. Felder, who still baked me lemon squares every Christmas, that the electricity had gone out for a full day. Another time, the lawn went uncut for 3 weeks, and someone filed a complaint with the HOA. I didn't revel in it. I didn't smile. But I didn't rush in either. Then, about 3 weeks after my final message, I got a knock at my apartment door. It was Jeremy. He looked rough. Not homeless rough, but unshaven, frazzled. His usual cocky smirk was gone. In its place was something tight, desperate. "Mike," he said, without even pretending to be casual, "can we talk?" I didn't say anything. Just opened the door wider and motioned for him to come in. He stood awkwardly in my living room, looking around like he'd never been in a place that wasn't staged for an open house. "They're losing it, man," he said, running a hand through his gel-crusted hair. "Mom's crying every day. Dad can't handle the stress. They're behind on everything. Why are you doing this?" I leaned against the counter. "Why am I doing this? You mean not subsidizing your lifestyle? Not funding the people who wrote me out of their lives while I was still alive?" Jeremy opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "I saw the will, Jeremy. I know. Don't pretend you don't." His face turned a shade paler. "It's not like that," he mumbled. "They were going to talk to you about it. Dad said it was just easier this way." I laughed, the sound dry and unfamiliar. "Easier for who?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the floor like it might open up and swallow him. I waited for him to say something, anything, that resembled an apology. But all I got was, "So, are you going to help or not?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see the golden child. I didn't see the charming little brother who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I saw a grown man who had never been told no, who had floated through life on a cushion of excuses, handouts, and the expectation that someone, usually me, would clean up the mess. He was still waiting for my answer when I finally spoke. "I did help," I said slowly. "For years. Quietly. Without thanks. Without recognition. You don't get to ask for more now that it's inconvenient. You and Mom and Dad made your decision. I'm just honoring it." "Come on, Mike," Jeremy said, taking a step forward. "You're really going to punish them over some stupid paperwork? You know Dad didn't mean it that way. You're being dramatic." My jaw clenched. That word, dramatic, was a trigger. It was what they always said when I tried to express anything that didn't fit into their perfect narrative. When I was 9 and cried because they left me at the school play to take Jeremy to the ER for a scraped knee, dramatic. When I asked why Jeremy got a car and I didn't, dramatic. When I said I was feeling burned out from working 2 jobs in college while helping them pay for his tuition, dramatic. I crossed my arms. "You don't get to gaslight me into compliance anymore, Jeremy." He scoffed. "You're not the victim here. You're just bitter." I walked to the door and opened it. "That's right," I said, calm but firm. "I am bitter. But I'm also done. If they need help, they can ask their beneficiary. That's what they set up, right? You get everything when they're gone. Maybe it's time you start earning it while they're still here." He stared at me for a moment, like he didn't understand the language I was speaking. Then, finally, he walked out. No goodbye. No apology. I closed the door behind him and sat down on the couch, shaking a little. Not from fear. From something like release. Relief. I had finally stood up for myself, not just in words, but in action. That night, I got 3 voicemails from Mom. The first was her usual tight-lipped tone, trying to stay composed. "Michael, we need to talk. You're not being reasonable." The second had more edge. "This isn't just about you. Your father is unwell. You can't just abandon your family." And the third? That one cracked. Her voice wobbled. "We never thought we'd have to depend on you like this. Please, just call back." I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called my Aunt Lila, my mom's younger sister. She was the only one in the family who had ever quietly noticed how I was treated. She never said much, a subtle glance here, a kind word there, but I remembered. She answered on the second ring. "Michael." "Hey, Aunt Lila. I know it's been a while. Are you okay?" I paused. "I think I am." For the first time in a long time. We talked for over an hour. She wasn't surprised about the will. She wasn't surprised about the fallout. What did surprise her was that I'd finally stepped away. "They always leaned on you because they knew you'd never push back," she said gently. And now they're terrified because the one person they never truly appreciated is the one they actually depended on. That hit hard. I spent the next few days in a strange headspace, part guilt, part freedom, part disbelief. My phone stayed quiet for almost a week after Jeremy's visit. I assumed they'd regrouped. Maybe they were trying to strategize a new angle. Maybe they thought I'd crack and come crawling back out of shame. They didn't know me anymore. I'm not even sure they ever did. Then, one evening, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. Inside was a photocopy of a revised will dated the day after Jeremy showed up at my door. My name was on it. I was listed as co-beneficiary. Half the estate. A handwritten note was paperclipped to the back. We didn't mean to hurt you. We just assumed you'd be fine. We're sorry. We want to make things right. I stared at that note for a long time. Not because I was moved, but because I knew what they were really saying. They weren't sorry they wrote me out. They were sorry it didn't work. They were sorry I'd stopped being useful. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't acknowledge the will or the note. I just placed the paper on my coffee table, where it sat like an uninvited guest for 3 full days, mocking me, daring me to take the bait. The thing is, if they'd sent me a real apology, if they'd called and said, "We messed up, and we want to talk," not because we need something but because we finally see you, maybe I would have picked up. Maybe I would have met them halfway. But a revised will wasn't an apology. It was a transaction. A bribe in formal stationery. So I made one last move. And this time, I didn't do it quietly. I pulled every bank statement, invoice, and payment receipt from the past 5 years. Every dollar I'd spent covering their mortgage, their utilities, their food. Every medical bill I'd helped with. I totaled it all. Then I added Jeremy's business loan, which had conveniently never been repaid. The final amount, $146,728.62. I printed out the spreadsheet, signed it at the bottom like a formal invoice, and attached a sticky note that read, "Since we're treating this like a business arrangement now, here's the balance due." Then I mailed it in an envelope marked "Personal, Attention, Richard and Judith." 2 days later, chaos broke loose. Mom called first. I didn't answer. Then came the text, rapid fire, like bullets. "What is this? Are you serious? Michael, this is not funny. You are destroying this family." That last one made me laugh. Then came Dad. Not usually one for direct contact. He always let Mom do the emotional heavy lifting. But this time, he called 3 times in one night. I finally picked up on the 4th, out of sheer curiosity. His voice was quiet, but not gentle, the kind of quiet that vibrates with restrained fury. "Michael," he said, "we got your little invoice." "Good," I said. I wasn't sure if certified mail would reach you faster. He took a breath. "Is this what it's come to? Money?" I nearly choked on the irony. "No," I said. "This is what you made it." I spent years giving, not because I had to, but because I thought I mattered to this family. Then I find out I've been erased, and the first time I say no, you scramble to fix it only because it affects you. Not because you love me, not because you care, but because suddenly your golden boy can't float the boat. He didn't speak. I could hear the slow hum of a refrigerator in the background. Maybe he was in the kitchen. Maybe he was staring at that will, wondering how it all fell apart so fast. "I'm not angry about the money," I continued. "I'm angry that I never even got a conversation. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. Like I was disposable. So fine. Let's treat it like a transaction. You want me back in the picture? Pay what you owe. Or don't. But don't expect anything from me ever again. You're really going to hold this over our heads?" "No," I said, calmly. "I'm going to let you sit in the mess you made." And I hung up. 2 days later, I got an email. From Jeremy. Subject line, "Bro. Please read." I almost deleted it. But curiosity won. The message was long, rambling, and almost painfully self-aware, a tone I'd never seen from him before. He admitted they'd always leaned on me too much. That he'd always assumed I'd be the fallback plan. That he never really understood how much I did until he tried, and failed, to step into my role. Then came the pitch. He was selling the condo. Moving back in with Mom and Dad temporarily to help stabilize things. He asked if I'd consider visiting, not to hand over money, but just to talk. To clear the air. And for a second, just a second, I considered it. Then I saw the final line. "If you want, we can meet at that old diner you used to like. Mom says you always ordered the chicken fried steak there." She remembered that. She remembered that. Not, "She called and told me she misses you." Not, "She's sorry." Just, She remembered that. As if that alone was supposed to patch over a decade of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. I didn't reply. Instead, I booked a trip. Not to see them. To get away. 3 weeks across the country. Time to breathe. To think. To build something just for me. For once, my vacation days weren't being saved just in case they needed me. For once, I wasn't checking in every day, waiting for the next fire to put out. Before I left, I did one final thing. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. Not for them, for me. If they wanted to turn this into legalese and fine print, I could play that game too. I drew up a formal statement. I would not be contributing to their finances in any capacity. I would not accept responsibility for debts incurred in my name. I would not co-sign, guarantee, or assume financial liability of any kind. And I asked the lawyer to keep it on file, notarized and dated, should anyone come knocking in the future claiming I'd promised them help. I left town that Friday morning with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. No guilt, no nagging sense of duty, just peace. And when I landed 3 states away and turned my phone back on, there were 17 missed calls. The last voicemail made my blood run cold. "Michael," Mom said, her voice trembling, "please, it's about Jeremy. Something's happened. We need you." And just like that, everything changed. My heart thudded once hard. I listened to the voicemail again. Mom sounded like she had been crying. Really crying, not the performative sniffles she used to guilt me as a kid. For a long moment, I just sat there in the hotel room, phone in my hand, blinds half open to the mountain skyline, trying to decide if I even cared. But I did, because for all the bitterness, all the betrayal, Jeremy was still my brother. And no matter how many times he'd hurt me, there was still that tiny, buried part of me that remembered letting him fall asleep on my shoulder during thunderstorms. The part that fixed his bike when he cried about missing the big park trip. The part that, for better or worse, never truly stopped loving him, even if I'd stopped liking him a long time ago. So I called back. No answer. I tried again. This time, Mom picked up. Her voice was jagged, panicked. "It's Jeremy," she said without preamble. "He collapsed. He's in the ICU. The doctor said he might not." She didn't finish. I didn't ask for details. I just said, "Which hospital?" When I walked into the lobby 12 hours later, after switching flights and racing through terminals like my life depended on it, the receptionist gave me the room number with a practiced nod. Room 407. Intensive care. Mom was in the hallway, red-eyed and exhausted. Dad sat in one of the cheap vinyl chairs, bent over like he was trying to fold in on himself. When they saw me, both of them stood at once. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mom rushed forward and hugged me like she hadn't erased me from their lives a year earlier. "Oh, Michael," she breathed. "Thank you for coming. I didn't think you would." "I almost didn't," I said flatly. She winced. I know we've made mistakes." That's when Dad finally spoke. "He asked for you." My stomach twisted. "Is he awake?" "Off and on. He's weak. But he was asking for you." I stepped past them without saying another word and pushed open the door to Jeremy's room. He looked like a ghost of himself. Pale. Thin. A plastic oxygen tube clipped beneath his nose. Machines beeping around him. There was an IV in his arm and a soft blanket pulled up to his chest. His eyes fluttered open when I stepped inside. "Mike," I swallowed. "Yeah, I'm here." He tried to smile. It didn't quite land. "Didn't think you'd come." "You're lucky I'm a soft touch," I said, trying for humor. My voice cracked halfway through. He nodded slightly, eyes drifting toward the ceiling. "I'm sorry," he murmured. I froze. Of all the things I expected to hear, excuses, justifications, guilt-tripping, that wasn't one of them. "I should have stood up for you more," he continued. "I let them use you. I used you. And I told myself it was fine because you were always strong. But that was just me being selfish." I sat down beside the bed, hands clasped together. "I'm not proud of the way I treated you, Jeremy. But I never wanted this. I never wanted to cut you off. I just wanted to stop feeling invisible." "I know," he whispered. "And you should have. I saw the invoice you sent them." I laughed at first, but then I started going through my own bank statements. And I realized, I've never paid back anyone. Not really. Not with money. Not with time. Not with love. His voice wavered. "I don't know if I'm going to make it out of here. But if I don't, I just wanted you to know I was never angry about the money. I was angry that I didn't deserve what you gave me. And I took it anyway. Something broke in me then. I don't know how long I stayed there. An hour, maybe 2, just sitting and talking with my brother. Real talk. No posturing. No guilt. No trying to fix anything. Just honesty. Eventually, he drifted back into sleep, and I stepped out into the hallway. Mom and Dad looked up at me like I was their lifeline. I didn't sit down. I didn't soften. You don't get to rewrite what happened, I told them quietly. Jeremy's trying. That means something. But you too? You didn't just favor him. You cut me out. You made your choice. And now you're scared because your safety net is fraying. Michael, Mom began, but I held up a hand. You don't have to grovel. I'm not looking for tears. I'm not going to sue you or burn the house down. I just want you to understand this. Once Jeremy's out of the woods, I'm gone. And this time, it's not out of anger. It's because I'm choosing peace. Dad nodded. He didn't argue. He just said, understood. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed in town, not for them, but for Jeremy. I visited every day, brought him books, made him laugh. He got stronger, slowly, enough to sit up, then walk a few steps. And when he was finally released, I helped him home, to their house. Before I left that final day, he hugged me. For what it's worth, he said, I rewrote my own will. Half of everything's going to you. Not because you need it, because you deserve it. I smiled faintly. Let's just focus on you living long enough that no one has to read it. He laughed, a real one, and nodded. Fair. Then I walked out the door, got in my car, and drove back to the life I'd finally started building for myself. That was 2 months ago. Now, I sit in my own home, a new place, one I bought without a dime from them, drinking coffee on a balcony that overlooks a quiet, wooded park. I've started painting again. I've made friends. I've gone on dates. I've breathed. Sometimes Jeremy texts. Updates. Memes. Little moments. And I respond. We're rebuilding something. Not the old brotherhood, but something real. Mom and Dad. I haven't heard from them since. And I don't need to. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not angry. I'm free.